Let's bring in former FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon now. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, a lot of the signs point to this attack being politically motivated. The shooter reportedly asking a congressperson before going on this rampage whether or not it was Republicans or Democrats who were on the baseball field. So how are investigators going about this investigation right now? What are the big questions that are being asked?
Well, the big questions, I think, for me would be to see who else he's been associating with. He's been living, from what we understand, either alternatively out of a van or at the local YMCA where he's been known to hang out. So you want to know who he's been frequenting with, who he's been associating with, hanging out with. You really want to know if, it looks like, obviously, hopefully, an isolated event from a deranged individual. And we can speculate on that, but the investigators, they need to nail that down. They need to make sure. They don't have the luxury of saying, yeah, this looks like what it is. They need to make sure that's what it is. And so they're going to be looking at his friends, his family, any associates that he's been hanging out with, people back in his hometown in Illinois, people who he might have been associating with here when, how recently did he move to the Virginia, D.C. area? There's combing, obviously, his social media. I saw one quote today from him where he actually mentioned Congressman Scalise by name in one of his posts. So, I mean, they're looking at all of that. Mainly the big thing now is to see if he acted alone, if he had any counterparts or any associates that harbored similar feelings.
You talk about social media, and the suspect's Facebook page is filled with anti-Trump postings, anti-Republican comments as well. And he also had this one post where he wrote, quote, "Trump is a traitor. Trump has destroyed our democracy. It's time to destroy Trump and company." It almost sounds like a threat against the president. Obviously, that would be a crime if that were a threat. So the question is, was this a missed opportunity or not, considering we live in a very polarized environment, and I'm sure there's a plethora of angry social media postings out there, and you can't flag every single one.
You're exactly right. That's exactly right. In the old days, maybe this would have been picked up by the Secret Service, but now with the polarization that we have, and with the advent of social media, where everybody is a keyboard cowboy and can go out there and be brave and say these things, it would be impossible to track everybody down and be thought police on the internet. A guy like this, you're right. It would just be impossible.
And clearly, people are angry. I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but in the United States, it is a very polarized and tense political situation. I just want to show you some video of just recent Republican town halls where there's been a lot of yelling and anger leveled at lawmakers. Take a look at this. So obviously, there's a lot of concern now amongst Congresspeople about their safety when they go out to these town halls, meeting their constituents, having these rallies. And the question is, how can they be protected? I know some Congresspeople have been talking about tele-town halls where they call in so they can be shielded from any dangerous people.
Yeah, and that's the shame of this all. It's that, I actually, look at some of those town halls and think that's one of the healthy parts of our democracies, when people can, speak up, especially with their unhappiness with their representatives. However, now because everything is so polarized and because of this movement of everybody has to be villainized, if you don't agree with me, you're the enemy and you have to be destroyed or you have to be stopped. So I wouldn't like to see, Congresspeople have to get protection, because we're supposed to be a citizen government, and we're supposed to be governed by the people, and people, citizen representatives, and that's a long history in this country, that we don't have a ruling elite. And so I think that would be a terrible road to go down, to start, but at the same time, I sympathize. I saw one of the congressmen today who survived the shooting without, I don't think he got injured today, but he said since his stand on some of the Obamacare reforms, he would get emails saying they hope his 6-month-old daughter dies. So I think the rhetoric has reached an all-time high, and I think it's time for national leaders on both sides of the aisle to come together and start lowering, the vitriol that's been plaguing us for, too long.
Yeah, and we definitely should mention it was the Capitol Police, the couple of men who were there that were the true heroes in this, and luckily they were there as a part of Congressman Scalise's security detail, and if they weren't there, like Rand Paul said, it would have been a massacre. Bobby Chacon, we're going to leave it there. Really appreciate your expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.